Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining me for another interview series episode with that franchise guy, John Anderson. I'm sure you all know me. That's how you found us here today. For record keeping, it's the middle of December 2024. So anything we talk about certainly would be related to that time frame. If we do get into any kind of startup costs or anything like that, that would be the 24 FDD. Today I have with me James Slaughter, founder and developer of, I'm sorry, development director of Daycation for Seniors. And again, everybody knows a lot about me, but James, let's jump right in and introduce yourself and Daycation and talk a little bit about what's going on with you guys.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate being here. As you mentioned, I am the owner and director of franchising for Daycation for Seniors. And my journey with Daycation really started about 11 and a half years ago. Actually, even a little bit before that, I had to deal with my grandmother that had
Mm.
Alzheimer's, and there wasn't an option. There wasn't a facility in the town that we lived in. So, I had to spend a lot of time taking care of her. And unfortunately, she passed away after a few years. And shortly after that, I was approached by Paul Kelly and Yvonne Mitchell, two of my business partners and owners of Daycation for Seniors, with this idea to start an adult daycare. Both of them had experience in the 24-hour care and residential care facilities. Paul had owned multiple, and it was really the first time I had heard of the adult daycare option. I said, my goodness, this would have been such a good option for my grandmother if we had one of these facilities. So it intrigued me. They were looking for some financial backing and capital, which I ended up supporting. And we opened up our first facility out in Rockland, California. We're coming up on 10 years here in a couple months. So very excited to be celebrating that. And the vision really all along was to grow Daycation. There's such an incredible need for it.
Mhm.
And after looking at the different options to do that, we ultimately decided that franchising made the most sense. And here we are today. We technically franchised at the end of 2022, but we redid our FDD in 2023, and we really didn't take this to market until the end of 2023. So we've been doing it just over a year now, and we've got some franchisees getting ready to open here in the next couple months that we're really excited about. So that's it for kind of a background, unless there's any additional questions that you have for me, John.
Well, I love the idea that, so, we've talked before about my experience in franchising and as a consultant here going on I've been saying eight, it's almost 8.5 years now. Um, I have done a ton in the senior space, probably the biggest single demographic in terms of, or sector in terms of franchising that I work in. And so I'm very familiar with it. And it's interesting that this concept that you guys have developed, people have asked me before, is there anything like that? And I always had to say no. It's like, there's some like mobility related stuff, or there's, home care, or there's home health care. And it's like now there's this great option that really exists, So um talk about, what you've got the brand and why would people look at this? I mean, I know the answer because there's 11,000 people turning 65 every day, right? That you lead with that. So, but from there, why would people look at Daycation for Seniors as opposed to a sign company or making some pizza or something like that?
Yeah, a great question. And just to add kind of on the statistics, I think they are important. You know them. I mean, 4.1 million people turned 65 this year. And here's a statistic that when I first heard this, it shocked me. And I'm sure you know it, but 11% or one in nine age 65 and older have dementia.
Hmm.
That is, when I first heard that, I was shocked. It's a sad statistic, but it really points to the growing need and I apologize. I'm at the house today, so we've got a new husky puppy here, and he is acting up and barking a little bit here. But it points to the growing need for this industry as a whole. And as you mentioned, certainly there is, I would say if we look at a pie chart, there is a well representation in the 24-hour care space and the in-home care space. You can barely see the sliver on the pie chart of
Mhm.
adult daycare. There are a lot of adult daycare, a lot of mom and pop type shops out there, but there is no rural franchise that has any sort of market share, anyone that's really been able to grow the segment of this industry. And that's really where we want to be that disruptor as an alternative option. And to answer your question of the why, more and more seniors are wanting to age in place. They want to continue to live with their spouse. They want to live with a child. I think it's a good alternative. Not that in-home care is not. There's an incredible need for it.
Right.
And I'm very supportive of many of these organizations. And as this disease progresses, oftentimes you will have to move into a 24-hour care or a memory care type facility. But we are a great alternative, especially for early onset Alzheimer's and dementia. We also have a curriculum that we'll talk about here in a little bit. That there are a lot of studies and there's a lot of data to show that you can actually slow the progression through the social interaction and the games and the activities and the different things that we do on a daily basis. And then the final piece, and might even be the most important with inflation and the cost of living, it's the cost side. From
Right.
a price standpoint, we are the cheapest and best option out there by far. You know, depending on, Oklahoma, California, where you're located, it will be different. I'll give you some statistics or average prices here for California, which is where I'm based out of. But the average cost for in-home care out here is between $5,000 and $6,000 per month. A one bedroom, 24-hour in a 24-hour care facility costs between 10 and 11,000 out here in Northern California. It's a very sizable amount. For us, we have a membership program, and there is an 8-day program, a 13-day program. This is per month, or an unlimited program. And again, local demographics will tweak these numbers a little bit, but for here in Northern California, it's 1,050 for 8 days per month, 1,575 for 13 days per month, and then our unlimited package is 2,310. So you're looking, half the cost of in-home care and a quarter of the cost of 24-hour care. And, that's a huge savings over the course of a year or 2 years before maybe one of our participants has to progress.
So thinking about it, and I'm going to jump to the franchisee side here in a second, but as from the consumer side, when it's funny because 10 years ago, I didn't know what senior care was. This predated me getting into franchise consulting, but we had to find a place for my grandmother-in-law. And, um, and in the process, dealt with both in-home care as well as a facility and the costs. I mean, you can maybe knock 20% off those numbers in Oklahoma where I am, but it's still a big number for, putting somebody into a facility or providing for even 8 to 12 hours a day of care. Um, but when you look at, so when you go to Google and you type this in, you're going to get pages of senior care or home care businesses that can help you. How do you stand out and create the awareness that you even exist in a community?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's what we're striving to do. And, certainly I think we've built up an incredible brand and reputation out here in Northern California. And as we we're gearing up to open one up out in Texas, a
Mhm.
franchisee. And as we continue to market and open up more and more locations, that brand awareness will come. Uh, but that is what we are working very hard to do. We do a lot when it comes to social media marketing, both on LinkedIn and Facebook and Google Ads. We're using that to create brand awareness, and it's partnering really with brokers like you, John, that can
Hmm.
that can help us bring the message to different audiences that we may not be able to touch ourselves. And I think in time, we're already starting to see that we're kind of emerging as, and we'll continue to emerge as a player in this industry as an alternative. And
Hmm.
because no one else is out there doing it, I think over the next couple years, 2 or 3 years, our goal is really to build out a household name that people
Yeah.
understand Daycation, know who we are. And again, it's an option to consider. We're not the
It-
right option for everyone, but I
right.
think as you get to know what we're providing in the curriculum, I think it is a very good option to consider.
And is it fair, just to follow up on that, to look, because I've described it this way, so I hope I'm right. Um, is it fair to compare it to like a preschool curriculum, except for seniors and those who maybe have dementia and Alzheimer's types issues?
It's very fair. I mean, that
Okay.
is truly really what we are with a, curriculum that we've developed and we've refined that is geared towards seniors, correct?
And you talked about these different packages. They don't have, I mean, it's not like a preschool in that day two builds on day one and so forth, right? They can come any day of the week and plug into what's going on.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a membership program.
Yeah.
It's 2 days, 3 days, or 5 days a week. We're open Monday through Friday,
Hmm.
uh, 8 to 5:30. So we're not open in the evenings. We're not opened during the weekends. That certainly from a franchise or standpoint is nice. It's also great from an employee standpoint. Many of our employees really appreciate having their nights off and their weekends off because the other options that they have, oftentimes you're working, 3 days straight. You've got to work weekends. You got to work
Right.
some shifts for CNAs. So I think there's an advantage from that standpoint. But to answer your question or your comment, yes, we are very much like a
Yeah.
preschool with a design curriculum to hopefully slow the progression of this horrible disease.
Sure. And I'm just trying to help somebody who might be brand new to the concept watching this, try and get a visual for it. So, as you start to look at this as a, investment as an operator, you touched on a couple things that I think are real competitive advantages to somebody who's looking at starting a business in the senior demographic. So, one of the concerns I've always heard about, the senior care, let's say, is how many employees they have to have. To run
Sure.
a big business, they're running, dozens, maybe hundreds of caregivers. How hard they are to find. The regulatory climate, of course, that varies state by state, but that's an issue in most states. And it sounds to me like all of those are advantages to your situation because you're not going to have but probably just a few employees, I would think, right? I wasn't even thinking about the 9 to 5 or 5:30 stuff because, as you're operating one of those other businesses, it's frequently on call. I mean, it's 24 hours a day. So if I'm looking at this as a potential business owner, to me, there's a lot of advantages to why this makes a lot more sense for quality of life and otherwise.
100%. And, gosh, there's a lot there, I guess, to in that. But let me start with staffing, and I think that's important. So each state is a little bit different in the requirements. Typically, it's an 8-to-1 ratio. Here in California, we're an 8-to-1. A lot of other states, there are a couple that are 7-to-1, and that is 8 participants. So every person that comes and attends, that's
Hmm.
a participant, we call them. And then we have, there's one staff member. That's at a state level. Now, we found that we run a ratio about 6.5. That's the optimal that we found to provide a very high level of service and care, but also to be able to run efficiently and optimally from a profitability standpoint. We found that CNAs are able to, with their experience, do more than someone who is not. So even though it's not mandated for us to have CNAs, we do hire CNAs, and we would encourage our franchisees to do that because they can do a lot more. Now, there certainly are different roles that we will work with a franchisee. There needs to be a general manager. That may be the owner if they want to be an owner operator, or that may be if they want to be semi absentee to start, that may be a position that they hire. There's an activity director. There's different, there's people that will be working the floor and managing that. All of those staff members go into the ratio, but we will work with the franchisee to, hire. And you're not going to need everyone all at once. You're going to hire an initial foundation core staff. And as you continue to grow over the course of 18 to 24 months, depending on the size of the facility, you'll continue to add key pieces.
Yeah.
We'll work with a franchisee really in terms of early on site location to determine how many daily participants do you want. Are you targeting 30 daily participants? Are you targeting 45 or 60? The franchisees right now that we've been doing the build out and getting ready to open are both targeting 60 participants per day. And we chose locations based on that. Our headquarter facility, we only do about 37 or 38. That's the max, even though technically we're licensed for 60 because of the size of our facility, our activity area. We are capped at about 37, 38 if we really want to squeeze someone else in. But then we have a wait list of 15 participants that are waiting to get into our facility. So again, we'll work with our franchisees depending on what their goals are, and that's really from a site location. So I answered some of the
Hmm.
questions there. I know there's some other parts to it if you want to, follow up on that.
Well, I think that was a good um, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about again, keeping in mind who's watching this, somebody who's thinking about starting a business. They're going to be thinking, well, gosh, what do I got to do every day? So maybe we could talk a little bit about, what does the franchisee do? And I always like to talk about, all right, what month 1 through 6, and then let's say, what are they doing at the end of year 2? Once it's a little more mature, what are they doing every day as the owner?
Yeah, great. So you go through the due diligence process
Hmm.
with us and some other, franchise opportunities. Ultimately, you pick a Daycation for seniors. You think we are the best partner for you. So the first 6 months is going to be all geared towards opening your facility, which in California, that's 6 months. In a couple other states, that might be 5 months, but there is a process. We will go through, a pretty rigorous sort of training program over that 6 months. But we'll start right out of the gate with identifying and trying to find the right spot for you. We have a strategic partnership with Cushman and Wakefield that we work with. We'll find a local representative out there that we'll work with. I play a pretty heavy role with the franchisees early in. We'll look at a lot of different opportunities. We'll do demographics analysis, but we'll find the right location for you based on your goals of 30, 45, or 60 participants per day. At that point in time, my business partner, Paul Kelly, will really step in and he will work with you to help design the build out, work with the architects, submitting your plans. Because he has a contractor's background and is a contractor, he will be able to run point working with you with your local contractor in terms of the build out of your facility. And then as that progresses, then we're going to start gearing up with our marketing department that will take you through, 10 modules of marketing training. And they will finish with planning your grand opening of your facility. There are other trainings, of course. We fly you. If you are the owner and are going to be working it, it's a total of 3 people, but you plus 2 people out to our
Mhm.
main facility for 2 weeks for training. We fly people out to you as you gear up. We assist in the hiring process, but all of that leads up to day one opening. Our goal is to have 5 daily participants on a wait list or a pre-wait list for you to open your doors and already have people attending. Now, we're going to call that 6 months, but really that's month one of opening. From
Right.
months one of opening to your first 6 months, that's really your building out, and hopefully you're adding 2 to 2.5 participants uh, per month, and that is daily participants. So typically you're going to need 5 total signups to get 2.5 daily participants, because not all of your participants are coming each day. Some may be coming full time, some may only be coming 2 days a week. And you're going to continue to grow. And typically, somewhere around month 6 is where you're seeing, you know, almost a break even sort of point. Again, that's different for everyone. But as you progress, at some point, you're going to flip into a profit. You're going to continue to grow. And again, it all depends on what your total daily participant target. You could reach that at a year, you could reach that at a year and a half, or it could be 2 years. And again, that translates pretty closely to 30, 45, or 60 participants per day.
Got
Uh,
it. Got it. Got it. So when somebody's like working let's say you've hit your day, your grand opening, and you've got people working, you've got people coming in as participants. Um, is the owner, and you might have to answer this two ways, I guess, depending on if they're daily operators or more absentee. But um, are they out in the community promoting the business? Are they in the business managing the people, and are they doing both? What kinds of things are you seeing the folks do?
Absolutely. So let's start with an owner operator, what your kind of day looks like. And I think this also really ties into sort of the curriculum and what a participant can experience. So participants are dropped off in the morning, sometime between typically 8 and 9 o'clock. We'll do coffee, we'll do snacks. Then that goes straight into our daily music program. We actually have 7 musicians that we bring in and we rotate in, and we'll have a music program, which is incredible to witness. If you are interested, I would love to have you out to kind of experience this. Then that rolls into a lunch that we have, and we'll do a warm lunch. Simple meals. You don't necessarily have to have a full kitchen, but it definitely does make things easier in your facility. And then in the afternoon, we'll do crafts, we'll do different exercises, mostly chair exercises, and then we do different games that we've developed over that course of the time. So the owner operator is usually pretty involved in a lot of those types of
Mhm.
things, especially early on, over the first, 6 months to 12 months. We do have an activities director that you're going to have on staff, but you will be able to get out there and work the floor if that's something that you want to do. But we will meet with you to kind of figure out what roles and responsibilities that you have. And I would say part of your work week is going to be going out there and doing marketing. It is going to be doing some tabling events if that's something that you want to do. It is going to be, potentially doing social media marketing, or you may hire someone in your staff that's going to be doing that. It may be going out and meeting directly with doctors. Again, these are the things that you're going to have to do, and we'll figure out if that's you or someone on your team that is best suited for that. But you also can be semi-absentee, where you're hiring general manager in different key roles, and you really are just sitting at a business owner standpoint and overseeing and working with that, and not as hands-on in the actual day-to-day running of the facility. And you can also hire someone that can be more of the marketing that's out there on behalf of you, marketing to the community. But we always encourage the owner to try to be marketing and be involved, especially in the first 6 to 12 months, which is most important for the growth and building up your average daily participant. So hopefully I answered the question there, John,
Yeah.
in terms of what the role, what sort of the experience is for a participant throughout the day. We do also, just to add, a lot of themed events. So we've done everything from Kentucky Derby parties to, we bring in a lot of, sometimes we'll bring in different animals like miniature ponies or goats, and we almost transform the entire facility, which is always such a huge hit. Sometimes we'll bring in um, like choir programs for kids or different things like that, and the participants absolutely love anytime we almost like a field trip in house that we do, and they really have
Right.
a fun experience.
No, this is great. I think this is really helpful for somebody who's looking at the business. You mentioned the build out and getting started, so maybe we can even hit a little rewind back to, and I'm glad you touched on the training because I get those questions all the time. John, I don't know anything about this. Don't worry, they're going to train you on everything you could need to know. Um, but in the construction part, so sometimes I think, and I used the preschool comparison before. Well, I've seen preschool build outs that can be 500 grand, $1 million, and so to the viewer and somebody who's thinking, oh my gosh, what is this going to cost? It's not that, right? Can you talk about what's included in the total startup?
Sure. So, based on the current year's FDD, this
Right.
might change a little bit here in 2025, but it's 168,000 to 300,000 is the total investment, including the franchise fee, your build out, and the first 6 months of operations. So it's
Mhm.
extremely reasonable. The big difference between a preschool, as you mentioned, is really the size of the preschool. So we're really looking between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet max. And what we are looking when we, look at the availability of different commercial real estate in your local area, we want to find a building that um, is semi built out. Um, as an example, we would love to have bathrooms already existing. That's a huge cost. If we
Right.
have to build out, ADA compliant bathrooms and run all the plumbing, that's going to really push the cost up to, the 300,000 mark. But if we can find a location that already has existing bathrooms in it, that's going to save us a lot. The other key thing that we're looking for is a large general activity area. Excuse me. That's
Mhm.
the actual limitation at our headquarter facility is we only have about a 1,200 square foot activity area, which caps us at 37 or 38 participants per day. In our franchisees, we have one has 1,700 square foot for her general activity area. The other one will have about 2,500 for her general activity area. And again, we're really looking at a minimum of 1,500. So we can find the right spot that doesn't require a massive amount of build out and then negotiate with the landlord, the leaseor, some TI money, which you can get quite a bit of TI money as well as 3 months rent right now. That can really help us go into and keep the overall cost and budget down to those numbers that we just talked about.
Well, I think for people who are looking at the type of business that let's just say would be in a similar setting, um, you know, it's not uncommon to see. I mean, gosh, 1,500 square foot hair salons are going to be a 350 all-in investment. So, and anybody who's watched me talk before or had any engagement with me understands when we're talking that total startup, I like to describe it as, that's the amount of money that is designed to get you profitable. So it's your total investment to get the doors open, but it's also covering your negative cash flow for 6 months and all the fees that go along and all the cost, the utility bills, insurance companies, marketing budget, everything. It's all in there. And so you don't need to plan on more. You need to plan on that. And whether you're dealing with your own finances or your SBA bank. So I think that's important to make sure people understand the context there too. I mean, to me, in the scope of starting a business, a relatively affordable opportunity.
100%,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that again, that can be a differentiator for us. Certainly
Mhm.
in-home care options, they can be very competitive at pricing, but there are really no good 24-hour care franchise or options out there because the cost is, I mean, you're talking in the millions to start
Yeah.
up, those larger types of facilities. And that's why you have, a handful of companies, maybe a dozen companies around the country that are the major players. But it's millions of dollars to get into that. We are a really affordable option, I think, at a very good price point
Yeah.
to get it, you mentioned.
Well, and I think the opportunity is there, and we haven't talked about this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the opportunity is there for somebody that wants to own a market, get your first one open and get profitable and roll those profits into a second one across town, right? I mean, there's how big of a population do you really see for one of your facilities, like territory wise?
Yeah, so really we're looking at a 50,000 minimum population. At 50 to 75,000 is what we're targeting. We'll do a very detailed demographics analysis, average household income,
Hmm.
average age, all of those things, are a factor, and we have certain thresholds that we're looking to cross over. But there are an awful lot of great potential options, and I'm sure
Yeah.
we can find you something. But you hit on a good point. Like we are, and I think maybe even the ideal candidate this translates into. But we are very interested. Certainly, if you just want to open up one facility, absolutely. We will work with you. But it makes an awful lot of sense to build out one facility, get a wait list of 10 or 15 people like we have, and then open up a second location that might be 15 to 20 miles away. And then you take a portion of your participants and start that business already with 10. You remove everyone from the wait list, and now you're already getting close to a break even point, when you open your doors. And that's really what we're interested, in partnering with entrepreneurs that, not only want to open up one, but maybe open up two or three, or have a market over the course of the next 5, or 6 years. And the entrepreneur spirit, being a business owner, understanding that this business is an asset. It's an
Of
asset that you can sell at some point down the road. I
course.
talk to prospective franchisees and they're like, well, gosh, do I really want to do this for the next 15, 20 years of my life? Well, you don't have to. You can build this up for 3 to 5 years and sell it, with a great multiple. We have resources through the FBA. We have other franchisees that will be interested in that. There's a high demand for this type of business, and that's expected to even climb. So that entrepreneurial spirit, but then at the same time, we really want franchisees that have been touched by this disease, that,
Yeah.
have dealt with a loved one, that have a passion for helping people and want to give back to the local community because there's such an incredible need for our facilities. And I think, there's not a whole lot of franchisors out there, franchise options where, you have both of these. An incredible need and opportunity that is projected to even increase the need over the next 10 years, but also an incredible business opportunity that's really a recession-proof industry. And I think that will really help take Daycation to a household name over the next
Yeah.
10 years.
No, there was some good stuff in there, and I think as I wind things up here, I love the idea of before you even start, and I bring this up with people that I work with all the time, but I love that it's on your radar. Before you even open your business, let's figure out how you're going to get rid of the business. What's your exit strategy? And I always use that analogy of, well, if you don't know where the destination is on the map, how are you going to get there? And certainly, how are you not going to get there most efficiently in a straight line? So, um, a lot of people get kind of taken aback by that, but I'm like, well, what? It may change, right? I mean, people, they may love the business and decide to be in it for 20 years, but you got to start with something, and you got to start with that. And the other thing you brought up in terms of creating an asset, a lot of people don't realize it's not just creating an income, it's creating something that is an asset that you can sell. Absolutely.
100%,
Yeah.
John, and I think it's such an important point. My past background, I've built successful businesses. I've helped a lot of other people build successful businesses, and you have to start with the end in mind. That end
Yeah.
may change, but that will dictate some of the decision and how you go about things. And that's where we are really good to help coach and provide guidance and practice development with that end goal in mind. And unfortunately, a lot of business owners, I think that's why a lot of businesses fail because they don't start with that. And that can be hard. It can be challenging. You may not know, but at least if you're thinking about those things, that's going to really help you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been awesome. I appreciate all the insights and the story of Daycation and the opportunity that lies with it. Before I wrap us up, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think would be important to somebody who is thinking about starting a business or B, starting a business that focuses on, our senior demographic?
Oh, I think it's important if you do have an interest, if you're listening, and obviously go through John and you want to connect, John connects you with
Mhm.
me. Understand that, look, we're not here to sell you on a vacation. We are here to provide guidance. We're truly looking to partner with individuals, just like you're going to be looking to partner with us, but it's got to be the right fit for you. And there are some other very, very good franchise opportunities. There are some other very good opportunities in this industry. And, our job is to help you kind of navigate and weigh out what the best option is. And if that happens to be a daycation for seniors, that's awesome. But we'll
Yeah.
take you through the due diligence process. We'll help you kind of peel back the onion and really understand if this is the right franchise for you. And, there's such an incredible need for this over the next 10 to 15 years. I think I'll share a statistic just in closing. But in 2024, the U.S. adult daycare revenue was 7.5 billion, which is a big number, but the projected growth rate is almost 6% compounded annually per year. That is an awful lot of growth that needs to happen in this industry as a whole. And I think, if we go back to that pie chart and that little tiny sliver that is adult daycare, I think the adult daycare space is going to take more and more market share. And again, I'm really, really excited that we are here as a pioneer and really, I think, going to capitalize on that.
I agree with everything. I think it's right business, right time, right opportunity, and I love a business where you're working directly with the founders. I mean, a franchise, I should say, because there's so many that, not that the giant private equity brands don't have, there are some good ones there, but in general, I love the founder-led brands personally. So. But yes, if you'd like to learn more about Daycation, we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn. You can come to John at thatfranchiseguy.com if you want to email me. Of course, you're watching this on LinkedIn or my YouTube channel or something. Obviously, you know how to find me. There's a certain football coach this year that made it very popular. I'm not hard to find, right? I'll close with that. I'm not hard to find. And I would love to set you up with James to have a conversation to learn more about Daycation for seniors. So, thanks so much for joining me today. I think this has been great and very educational, informative. I got some more out of it for sure every time we talk.
Thanks, John. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Have a good one, and everybody, thanks for joining me today as well. I definitely appreciate you.
Yeah.